Hi everyone, today I'm going to be talking about informal assessments. I'm going to go over what informal assessments are and some informal assessments that you can use in your classroom, as well as how you can use technology to help support. So here's a little overview of what an informal assessment is. Informal assessments are administered throughout day-to-day activities in the classroom. They're meant to assess student progress or mastery during instruction. So it's a way for a teacher to go ahead and see how students are doing with the concepts and skills that are being taught in that moment. Informal assessments can also assess behavioral or academic progress. They're usually very easily implemented in daily activities, which allows teachers to then change or drive their instruction in the moment or for the following days. Some examples of informal assessments that I'm going to go over today are an anecdotal record, which is more used to record behavioral observations. I'm going to go over a running record, a work sample, and teacher observations. So the first type of informal assessment that I'm going to go over is the anecdotal record. Anecdotal records are concise, objective observations, and they only report the facts. These observations should not include opinions or bias, and they can cover a variety of measures. So you can record academic progress, which would be more data driven. So, the student scored 8 out of 10 on sight words, or it could be used when observing behavior. So typically when it's used to describe behavior, it follows a sequence, an ABC sequence, A being the antecedent, what's happening before the behavior, B being the actual behavior that's occurring, and then C, the consequence, what's happening immediately after the behavior. So this kind of allows that objectiveness to occur when using anecdotal records. This could be used in the classroom in a variety of ways. This could be used during a multidisciplinary evaluation when determining student eligibility for special education. It could be used for data collection when developing a behavior modification plan or developing a task analysis. Anecdotal records could be used to collect data on IEP goals, as well as student academic progress on a specific skill or task. Technology that you could use to help with anecdotal records would be things like Google Forms or Google Docs, any type of option in the Google Suite forum, any type of word processing program. This would just help keep things organized, keep things in one place, allow you to share things easily with others. If you're using a Google form, it could be something that is district-wide or school-wide that keeps everybody concise and consistent. Advantages of using the assistive technology is that it can be used to track data over time. Anecdotal records are used to inform instruction and provide appropriate modifications or accommodations. A disadvantage of an anecdotal record is that it can have opinions or bias of the observer. Another informal assessment that can be used in the classroom are running records. Running records are informal assessments that are used to track students' reading progress specifically. And specifically, we're looking at oral reading fluency. So how many words per minute is a student reading and how accurately are they reading those words? These are typically conducted individually with a student. So the student would be reading from a passage while the teacher times that student and records any errors or self-corrections on a separate sheet. A really nice way that you can incorporate assistive technology or educational technology into running records is to use platforms like Seesaw or Flipgrid or RazKids or Read Naturally, because these would allow students to record themselves individually without the teacher being present. So the passage would be presented to them on any of these platforms. The student would have a recording feature where they would then record themselves reading it, and then the teacher could go back at a different time to listen to it. Another advantage of this would be that all of these recordings would be saved, so the teacher could listen to the progress over time. You'd have a nice little portfolio of the student's progress, as opposed to one-on-one where they read and they're done and that's it. The only disadvantage that I do see to this is that it would take a lot of instruction and expectations need to be set on how to use these platforms, because students do need to take it seriously when they are doing something like this, especially if a teacher is going to be using it to collect data. Work samples are another type of informal assessment. I think this is one that's probably most common for teachers. A work sample is exactly that. It's a piece of student work that's completed independently after direct instruction. So that could be something as simple as a worksheet. It could be a project. It could be a skill-based task like tying your shoes or typing on the computer. So anything that the student is producing on their own after they've been instructed in something. They're a really quick and easy way to see if a student's mastered a skill or concept. They have that concrete evidence that indicate the student's progress because it's right there in front of you. It's an authentic sample of student performance at that given time, and then based on the results of that, teachers can modify their instruction based on what the students are doing. Assistive technology and educational technology can also be used for work samples. Again, some of the similar applications that I had in the previous slide. So Seesaw, Flipgrid, Nearpod, Google Suite apps, Microsoft Office, anything that would provide a student the opportunity to produce something electronically or digitally and then share it with the teacher. Again, this is really nice because it allows a little portfolio to be created, a digital portfolio that the students and the teachers can track over time. You don't have to worry about papers going into folders or getting lost. A disadvantage that I do see to this would be that spot checking during class time. So teachers would need access to these above platforms to assess the student work. So typically if it's pen and paper, the teacher can just check over the student's shoulder and see how they're doing. If you are using the digital platforms, teacher would either need to use the student's device or their own, which could potentially take more time. The last informal assessment that I wanted to talk about is teacher observation. So teacher observation is an informal assessment conducted during a classroom activity. This is a way for teachers to assess what's happening in the moment. Again, observations really shouldn't include opinion or bias. They really should just be based on the facts and exactly what's happening with that student, and they can assess academic progress on a specific skill. So this informal assessment can be used to collect data on behavior to help teachers develop behavior modification strategies or behavior plans, or tweak and modify existing behavior plans. It can also be used for academic tasks. Teachers can observe how students are progressing on a skill, whether it's an independent work sample or a project or a center type activity, and then the teacher can adjust their instruction based on what they're seeing. Assistive technology can be used for teacher observations to help them record what they're seeing. So you could use Google Docs, any word processing software really could be used for this. An advantage, again, is it creates that ability to track student progress over time. When you have something digitally created, it's saved, and everything is there for the teacher to easily look at and review. And teacher observations are a great way to inform instruction and provide appropriate modifications or accommodations. Again, a disadvantage could be that teacher observations could contain bias or opinions and prevent the right modifications or accommodations from being implemented. So in summary, informal assessments are important components in a teacher's day-to-day operations. These assessments allow teachers to gather data during lessons to inform and drive instruction. Informal assessments give a snapshot of students' progress on a certain skill or concept in real time. Data can be collected and compared over a period of time to show student progress. Also, modifications and accommodations can be implemented based on the results of informal assessments. Assistive technology and educational technology tools are great resources to support teachers in collecting informal assessments. So thank you for listening. I hope you learned some important information today and are able to implement some informal assessments into your teaching throughout your classroom.